You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Nasa munisipyo kami ng Laurel sa Batangas. 3 years since the eruption of Taal Volcano. Kasama namin si Dr. Rina De Luna, who volunteered in veterinary medical missions when Taal acted up. Doc Rina recalls for everyone what it was like to be in one of the most devastated areas at the time.
So ito ay wala talagang mga tao kasi nasa evacuation areas pa sila. Gray siya kasi puro ashfall. Yung daan hindi pa siya sementado. Yung access dito hindi pa ganun kadali. Patay lahat ng vegetation dito. Tapos
We walked along the banks of Taal Lake. The water was calm. A fisherman had just come back to the shore after tending to a fish pen.
pero ibang-iba na siya ngayon. Ang dami ng bagong businesses. Tapos mga infrastructure na bago. Nanibago ako kasi green na siya. Tapos ang taas na ng vegetation samantalang dati parang wala ka talagang life na makikita dito.
Doc Rina recalls how things were much more desolate after the eruption. No fishing, and entire barangays were evacuated from the volcano island.
Pati dito yung mga fishermen, hindi pa sila noon pwedeng mangisda uli.
Entire villages evacuated meant the people, of course. It didn't mean the animals.
Maraming stray animals kasi nga yung marami sa kanila inabandon, hindi na dala doon sa evacuation areas. Maraming mga livestock ang nakatali lang sa puno kasi nga they had to leave already.
Ako po si Trisha Aquino, pumapodcast para sa Alagang Handa, a special series of Teka Teka News. We are exploring the relationship between animal welfare and our own well-being, before, during, and after disasters. After speaking with hog raisers, poultry farmers, and fisherfolk affected by Super Typhoon Odette, we are now on episode 4, leaving the Visayas and Odette to check on barangays in Batangas, living in the shadows of Taal Volcano. Alagang Handa is produced with support from Internews' Earth Journalism Network. Taal Volcano erupted on a Sunday in January 2020. The very next day, Doc Rina was called to the Batangas Provincial Office by the provincial veterinarian. As a teacher at the University of the Philippines, Los Baños, Doc Rina had ties with many vets in public service. Her mission? Organize the volunteers from different animal welfare groups. There was a lot to be done, a lot of ground to cover. Every day, starting at 2 a.m., Doc Rina would drive to Batangas from Los Baños, Laguna, there to meet with volunteers from the Animal Kingdom Foundation, or AKF.
Yung group namin was assigned at Agoncillo and Laurel, Batangas. So meet up namin sa Lemery was 5 a.m. and then we had to be at either Agoncillo or Laurel by 6 a.m. Tapos yun, dire-diretso na yun hanggang 10 a.m. Tapos 10 a.m. alis na kami.
Here's one thing that doesn't immediately occur to people after volcanoes erupt. Persons evacuate, but livestock, and animals in general, benefit from no such plans. Another thing we don't think about, Doc Rina says, even livestock away from or that make it out of the immediate areas affected by eruptions quickly run out of food.
Kasi syempre dahil covered with ash yung Batangas, wala kaming makuhang grass doon to feed yung mga ruminants. So dito pa lang sa Los Baños, nagtatabas na kami, no? Tapos pagbalik ko from Batangas, kinukuha ko na, tapos para madala ko siya na the following day.
It's not just feeds that they have to haul across provincial lines.
Water din, nagre-refill kami ng mga containers namin dito sa Los Baños para madala namin doon. Ang maganda dito din sa experience namin nga, no, dahil maraming tulong. So ang pinaka central station for all donations was yung Provincial Veterinary Office. Tapos bago kami pumunta doon sa danger zone, yung mga vehicles namin, pinupuno na talaga namin ng lahat ng kailangan namin. Feeds for different kinds of animals, medicine for different kinds of animals.
When volcanoes erupt, when earthquakes strike, when typhoons and floods force Filipinos to flee, Doc Rina says livestock and even pets are inevitably left behind.
May time na alala ko, no, umiikot kami, tapos merong isang manok na naiwanan na siya, no? Tapos ang problema, nakatali siya. I-rescue ko pa ba yung animal na yon or hindi? Well, buwis buhay na talaga. Siguro kasi nga veterinarian ako and andun talaga yung compassion for animals. Mabilisang galawan na lang. Yun, ginupit ko lang yung tali niya and then kinuha ko siya.
Vets, LGUs, NGOs, community leaders, even residents themselves, everybody says there is never any shortage of fellow Filipinos willing to help and donate. What's lacking, they say, are protocols and systems in a country that sees all forms of natural threats every single year. Doc Rina is keenly aware of the need for protocols, some kind of ready-made plans. She is one of the few Filipino vets officially trained on LEGS, or Livestock Emergency Guidelines and Standards, which was developed by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization. LEGS was designed primarily as a framework, a template that governments can use to plan out their own animal response programs during emergencies. Doc Rina used her training to help in triage, in allocating and maximizing limited resources, while also trying to mitigate against the inevitable losses.
So yung unang-unang objective niya is to obtain the immediate benefit. So for example, pwede pa ba nating mabenta yung mga animals kasi parang high risk na, they will not survive. So isang benefit is if we can get them and then sell them. And then after that, we should of course protect yung livestock because they are considered as key assets, no? Kasi nga their source of livelihood. So what we did was to provide feed for the animals kasi nga hindi namin alam gaano tatagal yung effect ng pagsabog, no, nung Taal. So ang pinaka-importanteng kailangan namin ma-provide was feed and water. And then we were able to do first aid naman dun sa mga animals na syempre may mga injuries from the eruption. We are able to decide if pwede pa ba nating i-rescue yung animal, meaning ilipat natin sila to a safer space or doon na lang sila. Ganong critical decisions should be made, no? Kasi wala rin naman at that time, wala pa rin talagang shelters that were devoted to rehome the animals, no? So talagang on-site feeding and then on-site medication. And then nung medyo mas maganda na yung condition ng mga animals, sinisimulan na rin namin silang ilipat sa mas safer na areas. And then yung last naman, pag okay na uli lahat, is rehabilitation. So around sumabog ang Taal, January, tapos around May, no, we were already starting with the rehabilitation efforts.
Doc Rina is trying to promote LEGS, and we ourselves will continue to bring it up throughout this Alagang Handa series. In Batangas, we met one of Doc Rina's disciples, one of her students working to improve government's incorporation of animal welfare in disaster response.
Ako po si Doc Joy Saibil Rosales Guarin, veterinarian 3 po dito sa Office of the Provincial Veterinarian. Ako po yung parang focal person sa disaster dito sa office namin.
Doc Joy says she's realized that even for vets, it's not just about treating animals.
Bago din sa amin yung activities ng sa disaster. Kasi nasanay kami na, eto kami, magda-diagnose kami, magtitreat kami. More of yung animal health, regulatory concerns, or kaya yung mga animal production and management side. So, nung nagkaroon ng Taal Volcano eruption, talagang parang nagimbal kaming lahat. Kasi nga, bago sa amin ito na may kailangan kaming gawin.
They immediately went to the affected cities and municipalities to see the situation for themselves, and that would allow them to respond accordingly. What they saw were problems that went far beyond what animal doctors are trained for, what any kind of professional alone was trained for. There were animals that their owners had left behind, Pigs were trapped in their corrals, the ashfall having caused the roofs to fall in. Horses roaming Taal Volcano Island were injured and had trouble breathing due to pollution.
Siguro po yung mas madali maisip ng tao ay yung itsura ng shock sa isang nasalantang tao. Meron bang corresponding na ganong itsura ang mga hayop?
Meron kasi makikita mo din dun sa mga mata nila yung kailangan namin ng tulong. Lalo na yung mga small animals. Kitang-kita mo dun sa mga mata nila kasi sanay sila, kasama nila yung family nila. Tapos naiwan sila. Ano yung gagawin nila? Sana magkita pa sila ng family nila.
When you say small animals, that's dogs and cats.
Attorney Heidi Marquez, the president of AKF. Again, that's the animal welfare org that Doc Rina volunteered with during the Taal eruption. She had her own encounters with animals that were left behind.
We were going within the different barangays and we would discover abandoned piggeries, we would discover abandoned poultries and all, and goats. But there was this very, very significant place in Barangay Buso-Buso in Taal. When we were, walking and going around, we heard piglets squeaking, noises and scratches all over. And when we went, we saw this piggery, the roof, the debris and all have crushed on the pigs. There were piglets also that died because there's a mom that maybe out of stress died. And some piglets were, left to fend for themselves. And so we rescued these piglets. We treated the remaining pigs. But the challenge there is how to take them out of the rubble. Because it's not just risky on the part of the pigs that were left behind there in that piggery, but it's also risky for us. Because any movement might affect whatever remaining posts or bearing. And it might also injure or crush people. So we were moving slowly one by one, cleaning, removing the debris, removing the muds. And, it's knee-deep thick of mud because it was raining really also consistently at that time. And we were taking out the piglets that has died and separating those that survived. And, we organized also a team that would go back in the next few days to rebuild the piggery. The owner of the piggery, when he saw what we're doing, he dropped on his knees and he cried. He cried and then he said, I was scared that my stock, my pigs would be stolen. I come here to feed it every now and then, but I was so helpless because I'm alone and I couldn't do anything to bring the debris out. But when he came back and saw we were cleaning up, we were trying to remove the debris and we were treating the pigs, he really fell on his knees and started to cry.
The provincial vets say it's not just about individual volunteerism. Quickly developing a system in an unfamiliar situation was crucial to the responders' success.
Gumawa agad ng communication letter, pagpapatawag ng meeting sa lahat ng stakeholders na pwedeng makatulong, cooperating and coordinating agencies, including animal welfare groups, para makapagbuo tayo ano ba yung gagawin natin. So dito sa office, meron kaming parang pinaka-technical working group, yung core group na gumagawa ng mga plano, actions and activities na kailangang gawin. Tapos merong gagawa nun sa ground. So meron kami ditong parang emergency operation center, tapos meron kaming incident management team na gumagawa nun sa ground. Kung ano yung iba tong pangangailangan ng munisipyo, yun yung a-action na namin kaagad. Kung halimbawa po ang pangangailangan ay sa food, so nagpa-bump feeding, nagpapamigay ng mga food packs for the animals, feeds, nagre-repack dito, tapos dinedistribute sa ground.
Bomb feeding, as in BOMB, bomba, is the strategic positioning of food and water in an area where animals can easily go once they feel it's safe to come out of hiding. Pagdating kasi sa response na maraming apektado, hindi feasible na isa-isahin pa ng mga vet ang mga bahay.
Meron ding ginawang rescue. Depende kung gustong ipa-rescue yung hayop kasi hindi pwedeng basta mag-rescue ng hindi informed or hindi authorized ng may-ari kasi magiging considered siya na pagnanakaw. Medyo nahirapan din kami sa part ng evacuation kasi nga since bago pa yon, okay, kailangan pala nating i-coordinate yung mga animal haulers namin kasi yung availability ng sasakyan, syempre nakatuon siya sa response na pang tao. So, kailangan namin ng sasakyan para sa mga hayop. So, ang pinaka naisip namin is kailangan namin mag-coordinate sa kung kanino kami makakahiram ng mga sasakyan. So, nagtatawag kami agad noon ng mga animal haulers kung sino yung willing na mag-volunteer yung sasakyan nila para makapag-evacuate kami ng mga animals na gustong ipa-evacuate.
That sounds simpler and easier than it is. Iba-iba ang laki nila, mula aso't pusa hanggang baka, kalabaw at kabayo. Hindi mo sila pwedeng pagsama-samahin sa iisang sasakyan kasi baka maipit ng malalaki ang mga maliliit. Magkakaiba rin ang mga pangangailangan nila. Yung mga aso't pusa kailangan ng cages. Yung iba, baka mga gat, kailangan lagyan ng busal. Yung sasakyan din dapat angkop. Baka makatalon palabas ang hayop habang nasa daan.
Isa pang mahirap dyan is yung pick-up points. Kasi, buti kung yung pag-pick up ay magaganap bago yung insidente. Pero katulad nung sa Taal, nangyari na yung insidente bago yung pag-pick up. Kasi kung before yung insidente, ay alam ng farmer, oy, dadalhin ko dito yung animal ko sa pick-up point. Mare-register siya dito, ma-identify siya dito, organized yung actions natin. Pero since nauna yung insidente, pipick upin mo siya sa lahat kung saan mo siya makikita. Tapos nagkaroon kami ng mga parang pinaka-shelters, temporary shelters, kung saang munisipyo willing na magtanggap at pinakamalapit dun sa naapektuhan. Meron ding mga small animal shelters na tumanggap ng mga rescue ng dogs and cats.
Dapat may specifications ang mga shelter. But because it was a rapid onset event, the LGU made do with what they had.
Gagawan lang ng kung kailangan lagyan ng trapal, kung lagyan lang ng konting bubong, kung anong structure ang meron doon, yun na yun. Like yung sa Rosario na shelter, ang mga nakakulong doon ay mga aso din, saka mga kambing, pero koral siya ng baboy. So kung ano lang talagang meron, yun lang talaga yung gagamitin namin. Kung mga baka kalabaw, itatali lang sila sa isang poste or sa isang trunk ng puno na wag lang silang mag-aabot-abot, okay na yun. Basta meron lang silang shed na hindi naman din sila mababasa ng ulan or maiinitan ng sobra sa tanghali. Meron silang mga feeding areas.
Every day, Doc Joy and the other responders had a planning session with government agencies, the military, animal welfare groups, and technical experts like Doc Rina. Constant communication was vital. All activities had to be authorized by the provincial vet. Otherwise, the responders might become the ones who needed rescue.
Hindi pwede na mabagal yung desisyon. Tapos, susunod ka kung ano yung policy and direction din ng ating local chief executive. So, gagawa namin siya ng objectives. O, ito yung gagawin natin today. Ito yung kailangan nating ma-accomplish. So, mag-strategize, gagawa ng tactics, kung paano ilang tao yung ipapadala, anong gagawin nila dun sa ground, anong ima-manage nila.
Thinking of the long term, Attorney Heidi and AKF are lobbying lawmakers to revise the Animal Welfare Act so that animals will be included in disaster mitigation, planning, and response. This would define the role of barangay officials when it comes to animals in emergencies. This would also include the creation of an office solely dedicated to animal welfare. Of course, all of that would need funding and resources to be assured every year.
We received a distress call, may mag-inang baka. Sobrang emaciated, sunog-sunog yung katawan nung nanay na baka. So sabi ko, pumunta kami doon, nagpadala ako ng tao, and nearby, merong truck, military truck. And then we were begging, pwede po bang dalhin na natin ito? Kasi sa Provincial Veterinary Office, isasakay na po natin. Kasi kailangan po talaga itong matanggal dito at mabigyan ng medical attention. Mamamatay po kasi itong mag-ina na ito pag hindi natin na bigyan ng immediate medical attention. They just looked at me and sabi niya, hindi po kailangan lang, dito lang po kami. And they were just sitting, they were just preparing their lunch. So we were declined. Had there been a national plan for these farm animals to be rescued, to be taken away during times of disaster, before, after, or during, no? Then there can be some mitigation on the part of economic value or impact to the farm owners. We also have to understand that these farmers, pet owners, or farm owners, the reason why they would not leave their homes during disasters is because they care for the farm animals that that's left behind. We would see communities where men are hiding, and when we come in and bring feeds, and they would be hiding because they thought that they'll get arrested because they're left behind. So if there is an improved or better system of responding to farm animals or to farmers with animals impacted by emergencies, then it would be easier for us to also make these farmers cooperate and leave their community. If they can just be assured that people would come and respond and help them and their farm animals to also survive the emergencies, then things would be better.
In the next episode of Alagang Handa, we are headed to towns around another famous volcano in Bicol to learn from zero casualty protocols in the provinces there. Again, I'm Trisha Aquino, the writer and producer of this episode. This episode was edited by Mark Casilian, research from Paul Soriano. The script was edited by Robbie Alampay. Jill Caro is the executive producer. You've been listening to Teka Teka News. Thank you again to Internews' Earth Journalism Network for making this series possible.